What's going on, guys? This is Damien from The Lookout, and today we are talking about one card that really needs to go. Gogeta Thwarting the Dark Empire. But before we begin, we are on our way to 500 subs when we're gonna have an awesome giveaway. So if you like these types of videos and we post them every day, hit that like and subscribe button, it really helps us out a lot. Now, roll the video. This might be a bit of a controversial opinion to some, so let me first present my case and then I will give you my opinions and my suggestions for how I would fix it. The main reason why I'm talking about this now is look at the tournament results from Fest events and from last week's card market event. Gogeta Xeno is running wild and something needs to be hit, and I believe that SS3 Gogeta Thwarting the Dark Empire is probably the most busted card that this game ever had. On a fun side note, when I joined the game for the first time, the most busted card was the 7-drop blue Gogeta, and it took forever for that card to get banned. Now it's Gogeta again, just a different color, and it still takes forever for it to get banned. So I'm afraid of what the next iteration of Gogeta is going to look like. First problem, it is a 25k double strike, 1 energy, turn 1, draw a card if your leader is Gogeta Xeno. There is no other 1-drop or play it for 1 energy card in the entire game that does this. None. None of them can do this consistently. You have your 1-drop draw a card, but they don't have 25k double strike. Second problem. Not only is the card everything that I said before, but it also warps your opponent's 1-drop immediately. So yeah, if you're playing second, you play it, you warp your opponent's 1-drop unless it has barrier, and that's it. Their 1-drop that's supposed to set up something, it's gone. It's warped, they're not getting it back. So first it swings at you for 25k double strike, and then it warps the only card that you've played this turn. The next problem is that there is no drawback to playing this card so early on in the game. I mean, the only way to stop him from entering, because he doesn't have deflect or barrier, is Charismatic Villain from the 1-drop, 1-cost Demigrade Unison. That's it. Nothing else stops this guy from entering on turn 1. On the topic of Gogeta being hard to remove, here is the next problem. You can't imagine how hard to remove this thing is, because if you remove him with anything that sends him to drop or warp, your opponent can just play this Goku for 0, overwhelm it, and get Gogeta back, and then pay 1, play him, beat the crap out of you again. The only way to consistently get rid of this guy is to bottom deck him. But then your opponent has 3 more coming your way, and good luck with them. Next problem. So you can say, okay Damien, just play red and play Violent Rays. Well, good luck, because a smart player will always attack with thwarting first. His auto will first go off, he will get rid of something, and then you get to play Violent Rays. And in most situations, they also have Goku True Fighting Spirit on the field before they attack to punish you for using that Violent Rays. So even that's bad. You still lose stuff. Another problem is that besides blue, no other deck has any sort of a Senzu Bean effect to ready your energies. And versus this deck, you need to have energies open to fight him. You need your energies for Violent Rays, your Robotic Riposte, but because this guy is playing such hyper aggro against you, you cannot really play like 1 turn behind to fight him. Eventually he will catch up with you and beat you anyway. The final issue with Thwarting the Dark Empire is that it's not leader locked. It's not even archetype locked. Any black deck can play this guy. Trunks runs this guy. Hechiek runs this guy. So any black deck can play him. It doesn't cost them anything. And even if it were leader or archetype locked, it still wouldn't solve any problems. I'll talk more about this in the suggestion section. Okay, now that I have presented all of the problems, let's look at some suggestions for solutions. Why some of them would work and why some of them wouldn't work, and why the banning of Gogeta might be the only answer. Solution number one is one that I hear the most, and that's, well, just leader lock it. Just our leader / archetype lock this card. That doesn't solve anything, because Gogeta Xeno is already the best deck in the game, and if you put this card in Gogeta Xeno, it does everything on turn 1 that it did in the past, plus it always draws you a card. So it's not really a solution. If you put it only, if you make it so that only Gogeta Xeno can run it, it still won't fix the problem. Solution number 2, limit it to 1 per deck. Okay, so this essentially makes it a secret rare. Fine, and what will it do? It will make the deck less consistent. However, unlike any other secret rare, if you manage to pull one of these, because of the SS3 Goku, once it hits the play, it's almost impossible to get rid of it, other than bottom deck it. You really cannot do much. So is limiting it to 1 an answer? Well, it's better than just leader locking it. But then again, we are still looking for a way to get rid of the card. So let's put this in a possible solution category for now, and we will review it later. For our next solution, let's look at the scenario in which Bandai is like, okay, we don't want to limit this card to 1. We've printed multiple versions of it. It's the best card in the game. We want people to play it. What can happen then? Well, there are 2 possible solutions. Solution number 1 is you need to give it like 3+ energy effect. The effect that all other boss monsters have now. You can do that. That will slow deck down dramatically. There's also another thing that you can do. The other thing that you can do if you really want people to keep playing this card is give it the effect that the newest SSG Trunks has. Permanent. When this card leaves the battle area, it's removed from the game. It's not in the warp, it's not in the drop, it's just gone. It's removed. There is 0 way of recurring it. That way SS4 Goku cannot bring it back. But we need to look at these solutions one next to each other. Okay, so now we are looking at the 2 solutions that they put to the side, which is 3+ energy versus Trunks permanent. Okay, 3+ energy doesn't really, okay, it kills the card, but it kills the card completely. It's just gone. If you're going to errata it to be 3+ energy, you might as well ban it. It's never gonna see play again. It's too slow. If, on the other hand, you give it the permanent that says like, okay, when it's removed from the game, it's impossible to recur it. That fixes the problem of recursion and of how easy it is to just keep spamming this guy, but it doesn't fix the other problems. More importantly, turn 1 25k, double strike, draw a card, remove something. That's the bigger issue. And like, okay, oh, now it leaves the game when it's removed. Yeah, fine, but your opponent can still play 4 of them. So by the time you remove all of them, well, good luck, you're probably dead already. So these 2 unfortunately aren't solutions. One just flat out isn't. The other one is basically, you might as well ban the card. Now let's go back to solution number 2. Solution number 2 was limiting it to 1. Okay, now let's examine this. What happens if you limit this card to 1? First off, what happens is every deck can still run it, so it's an extra secret rare in black. Every deck can also run SS4 Goku and just get it back. Sure, okay. We need to examine, let's compare it to King Piccolo the New Roller. Okay, it's also limited to 1, it's also double striker, it also enters the play for free. There is just one big difference, and that is recurrence. Once you play King Piccolo the New Roller and he's removed, you cannot get him back. You can do this consistently with Gogeta. Okay, but then you can argue, fine, but you only have 1 in the entire deck. So is it really such a problem? Let's look at some leaders. So how difficult it is to find Gogeta Xeno in your deck if it's limited to 1? Okay, these are the 4 leaders that come to my mind that can actually get it to drop from the deck and then warp it and start recurring it. This is SS4 Goku, Gogeta, Vegex, and for shits and giggles, Gohan. Other black leaders will have a much harder time finding this one card. And if it's in their drop, yeah, you need to run SS4 Goku and warp it, and then you can start doing your thing. So where does this lead us? Let's look at the leaders that can actually recur him and get him into the drop. In this case, well, they can play him from hand. Once they play him and he gets removed, they'll just stop bringing him back. So you need to hope that in their last life, otherwise, even if it's in a life that you crit, it still causes a problem. So when it's limited to 1, is it really that much of an issue? For the sake of the argument, I went and checked the list of all limited cards in the game, and most of them still see play, and most of them are super impactful once they hit the field. The same way that this Gogeta would be super impactful. But there is one key difference. You play your limited to 1 cards as your extra secret rare. You play it, it does its thing, and that's it. However, with Gogeta, just because you can bring him back so many times, it puts him a level above all of those limited to 1 cards. Yeah, it's not going to, constantly come back in every black deck, but Gogeta has the potential to do that. Just imagine if you could recur New Roller, or you could play Bergamo every turn, or Power of the Super Saiyan was at 4 again. Yeah, just imagine that you can do this. You play your 1 secret rare multiple times a turn. You can play him 5 turns in a row. You can just do that, and you just beat the crap out of your opponent. That's the issue with limited to 1. It's going to affect some leaders, but other leaders will have a much easier way to look for this card, because when it comes to limited to 1 cards, there is no real way to look for them in your deck. Yeah, some of them can be tutored, of course. Some of them, there might be ways to make it easier for you to find them, but none of them are like Gogeta. You can really dig for Gogeta, and once you hit him, it's done. He's never leaving the game unless you either lose or you manage to somehow beat your opponent. So limited to 1, is it a solution? No. I don't think, now that I have presented my case, I don't think that limited to 1 is a solution. Simply because Gogeta is so a step above, so much above other limited to 1 cards. Before I conclude and give you my solution, I want to address one final argument, which is, okay, then Damien, let's just ban Gogeta Xeno as a leader, problem solved. Gogeta Xeno is the best deck in the game. It is, fight me, I'll fight you, it's the best deck in the game. You cannot convince me otherwise. Results speak for themselves. So if we just ban Gogeta Xeno, problem goes away. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. It's not Gogeta Xeno that's a problem. It's Thwarting the Dark Empire that's the problem. Gogeta is good because of Thwarting the Dark Empire, not other way around. So if we ban him, other decks just continue to run 4 copies of him, and he just does what he does. The only difference is he doesn't draw a card when it's played, and that's basically it. It's maybe a bit harder to dig for it. Okay. So, yeah, you cannot really ban the leader and expect the problem to go away, because it's not the leader that's the problem. Gogeta Xeno has the easiest time of playing with this Thwarting the Dark Empire engine. That is true, but it's not the leader that's the problem, it's the engine. So, let's move to the final solution. This leaves us with my solution, and that's the last possible solution, the only option that we didn't explore. Just ban him. And I think that there are no arguments, there are no drawbacks really to this. Like, if you ban him, he can't be played anymore. Every other problem that I've mentioned that other solutions have is gone, because the card is gone, it's banned. And honestly, at this point, I think that all of us would agree that, yeah, maybe it's time for SS3 Gogeta Thwarting the Dark Empire to leave the game. It's been around for a very long time, it's super cheap, everyone who wanted to play with the card got their chance to play with it, and now it's continuing to break the game. I think it's finally time to let it go. Now that I have presented my case and my solution, I want to hear from you. What do you think? How would you handle Thwarting the Dark Empire? Do you think that I'm wrong? Maybe there is another solution that I didn't explore yet? Would you ban him? Would you just limit him to one? Would you just leave him alone? Tell me in the comments below. I read all of your comments, I reply to everything, I love interacting with you, I'm super happy with our little community, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. We're on our way to 500 subscribers when we're gonna have a really awesome giveaway. This has been Damien from The Lookout, and I will see you all in the next video.